What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here alongside Josh Davis and a special guest on our Wednesday Link Live. A little later than usual, but all for a good reason. We welcome in the man, you know him, Philly 500. 500, I appreciate you jumping on with us. What's up, man?
Oh man, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I appreciate you guys having me. I'm just ready, man. I'm ready. I'm excited for week one. I could barely contain myself.
Were you, was this the longest offseason in the history of you being an Eagles fan? Did it feel like the longest one? Because Josh and I have always talked about it on every live show. We've been Eagle fans our entire lives, much like you have, but this feels like the longest offseason because of how exciting and good the team is this year.
It does and it doesn't. Like, because if you remember, we had the Super Bowl, and then it seemed like right from the Super Bowl, it was like free agency just started, and
Right.
it seemed like it was going really quick. But then right after the draft, like in June, July, it seemed like it dragged on. It seemed like the last month and a half was a whole nother full all season. So I totally get what you guys were saying. I think for me, the longest all season was the 2004 year, the year we got Terrell Owens.
Mm.
That seemed like that season never was going to start.
Took quite
Yeah.
took quite some time. Yeah, I'm just thankful we're here. Honestly, like everyone that we've been talking to, telling Thomas, and fortunately Joey. For those wondering, Joey wasn't able to make it. He had a family event.
That's right.
But appreciate you 500 for being here. Seriously, I guess it's the
I'll
Wednesday Link
I'll take care of
500.
Joey.
So
I'll give him the back of the hand later.
there you go. That works.
I'll take
But
care
no,
of Joey later.
I am just pumped at the season here. Obviously, I mean, I just got to get your thoughts because for those that may have just seen, did a video on Jonathan Gannon, among other things that we'll get into as far as the Eagles. But man, this guy, like, what in the world? Like, this dude is literally a real life Michael Scott. I mean, the comments that he says, the lies that he continues to come up with, it's just insane at this point. So curious, though. I mean, first time on here, but getting your thoughts on JG and just what the mess, I guess, the dumpster fire the Cardinals are.
I can't stand him. I can't. Like, he's
Yeah.
one of those guys that hate to face guys. I just don't like him. I just think he's disingenuine.
Mm.
You always got that sense with him, even with the Eagles. I just feel like he's very disingenuine. You saw what he did with when he left and he got hired, how he was talking about how the media was saying certain things that just were not true the whole year. And then now, I know a lot of people are saying, "Well, he's taking responsibility for the Super Bowl," but he didn't. If you read the article, he
Yeah.
kind of throws the players under the
Yeah.
bus. It was kind of like, he was kind of being sarcastic. But you got to read the whole article in the context. I think he's a jerk. I mean, I just don't like the guy.
I agree. I'm with you. I mean, as far as just the joke and everything. At first, whenever because of course, everybody in this day and age, it's run with the headline, right? So like, as soon as someone saw the comments, like, oh, he admitted to I was the reason for the Super Bowl loss. But then, as you dig into the article, like you mentioned there,
Right.
there's some sarcasm, like he's mimicking. It's more of like a oh yeah, of course I caused the Super Bowl because everyone needs a scapegoat. And it's like, are you kidding me? So I'm right there with you. Like, I can't stand him. I did kind of basically
No.
a parody video, I guess, I suppose, of of making fun of Jonathan Gannon today. But I mean, for him to go in there too and give the inspirational, motivational, whatever you want to call it, the speech that he gave the Cardinals there. And I love the look on Buda Baker's face. Like, that's all they're going to show. I just wish
Oh
there
yeah.
was like behind the scenes that we could see because there's no way these guys are buying it. It's just, it's hilarious.
No.
But anyway, there are more important things, obviously. We got Birds, we got Eagles game. We can forget about JG till week 17. And quite honestly, we probably won't see him. Like, I wouldn't surprise me if he's fired before that time. But I cannot wait for the Patriots game. And Thomas and I have talked about it quite a bit. Looking for all the different headlines. You got some potentials with the Patriots and the right tackle Riley Rife, who's out. So how are they going to block the D line? Are you concerned at all? I know you just did a live stream too with a Pat's content creator, I believe. But are you concerned
Yeah.
at all? Is there anything with the Belichick with the Patriots? He was very complimentary, obviously, for the Eagles. But is there any concerns leading up to this game?
Well, you always got to be concerned about Belichick. Belichick has a way of making his team look completely different than the week before, and he's had a whole all season to get ready. So I'm sure he's going to come out with a few wrinkles and a few things to try to confuse us and whatnot. But I just believe at the end of the day, uh, I just don't think that the Patriots have enough firepower to hang on. Like, I can see this game being close the first quarter into the second quarter. I think their defense maybe it keeps them in it for a while at best. But they cannot move the ball through the. I do not believe they're going to be able to throw the ball on the Eagles, and then you compound that with the fact that their offensive line is beat up. I think it's a bad mix for the Patriots. I really do. This is a game the Eagles should blow them out by the fourth quarter, in my opinion.
It does kind of feel like a very good litmus test game to see just how great Philadelphia is. Kind of like how last year the Steeler game, the Titans games, where these are kind of mediocre football teams. Steelers were okay towards the end, but Philadelphia should be able to blow them out, and it shouldn't really be close. And I think most of us feel like that's going to be the overall way. I am very curious, though. We haven't talked, you and I, in quite a while. I think going back before the draft. Was there a surprise this offseason that hit you more than any of the other ones? Because we kind of went into this offseason thinking, all right, they have a little bit of money. Maybe they'll re-sign Hargrave or they'll re-sign Slay, and that'll basically be it. And then here we are, 3, 4, 5 months later. The roster has gotten a lot of upgrades. Was there something, whether draft or free agent-wise, that really surprised you?
I think the DeAndre Swift trade surprised me. Not because I didn't think the Eagles were looking for another running back, but because they got him the way they did the third day of the draft. And it just was such a great move. And to me, it was such a move. I mean, because I talked up leading up to this draft that, like if Jalen Carter or Will Anderson are off the board, I'm going Bijan Robinson. I made a big stink about it because I believed they needed that kind of weapon at the running back position.
I was with you too. The whole draft 5.
Swift,
I was with you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't think Jalen Carter was going to be there.
No.
Not in a million years did I think Bijan Robinson would go before Jalen Carter. So, it was crazy. But getting DeAndre Swift, I think that's that's one real area, especially on the offense, that you could really improve using the running back out of the backfield in the passing game. That's an element we really didn't have last year. And to add that element and to get DeAndre Swift as cheap as they did, I think that was probably the biggest shocker for me because I didn't expect it.
Yeah, speaking of DeAndre Swift here, we're actually doing a DeAndre Swift signed mini helmet giveaway. Anyone who drops a super chat on the show, also going in on the Sunday show as well. We'll get some entries. Quickly get these in. Donatello Dragon says, what's up, fellas? And Denzel, Fly Eagles Fly, 2 entries into our DeAndre Swift signed mini helmet giveaway there. We appreciate that.
There you go.
Going to be a lot of fun to draw that on Sunday. It's always fun to get the Eagle content creators together. We all talk about a lot of the same stuff, a lot of different personalities, and obviously a lot of people watched all 3 of our shows. Josh and I have been talking a lot, though, about the rookies. And it's not just Jalen Carter, really Nolan Smith and Sidney Brown, because we know what we're getting in Jalen Carter. I'm sure that you saw all the reports the past couple of days and weeks and months about how great he looks. He's incredible. He's the best thing since sliced bread. Sidney Brown and Nolan Smith, though, are you expecting...
He's the bread man.
Yeah, well, are you expecting big impacts from him? Are you expecting mediocre impacts from those two? Where are you at on Nolan Smith and Sidney Brown?
My expectations for Nolan Smith have just kind of risen from when we drafted him. It just goes up every week because you hear more and more good things about him. Then to see him on the field and watch his closing speed, I expect him to get set. I think he's going to get 7 or 8 sacks this year.
Wow.
I think he's going to make an impact. Sidney Brown, I expect to start. I can't foresee any situation in my mind that we go into week 10, 12 that he's not the starter. I think at some point he's a starter. So you're looking at, I really look at 3 of your first 4 picks are going to get significant playing time, which is absolutely fantastic in terms of a draft to go out and get guys that young to go out and actually play that much is really amazing. So I think there's a lot of guys to be excited about, not just Jalen Carter, but I think Sidney Brown and Nolan Smith are going to be franchise type players in the long run.
I agree. I'm right there with you. Again, Thomas and I have talked about it quite a bit. But even back at OTAs, I think I was saying I think Sidney Brown might start. There's the possibility. Now, obviously, we don't have an official report, and if you go based off of the unofficial,
Right.
whatever you want to call that depth chart that came out recently,
Right.
there's 4
Yeah.
potential starting running backs, and Sidney Brown is backing up Reed Blankenship, so there's not a chance. But they said, the Eagles department, I guess it was the communication staff that's putting that together. So take it with a grain of salt.
Oh,
But
really? I didn't
I'm
know
with
that.
you. Yeah, it apparently was. It was not the official. It was the unofficial
Yeah.
that Jeff
Okay.
Kerr, I think, tweeted out first. But still, it's like, okay, that could be legit, right? I mean, several of those opinions or several of those options there are probably true, but there's some question marks or possibilities that we could see over the next I guess day or two, because surely we're going to hear it by that point. So it wouldn't totally surprise me, but like I've been saying, is like the closer that this thing gets, I'm like, if they go with a veteran for like the first week or two, maybe
Right.
I could possibly see that. But again, I mean, the reports that we've been seeing, and obviously the eye test too, I think all of us seeing a guy like a Sidney Brown on the field is like, man, everybody else is in slow motion at that point. So I hope
Right.
we see it. I'm super excited. I don't think there's a whole lot of concern. Really, to me, the only thing was Nolan with the shoulder injury, which sounds like that he's good. But are there any concerns, 500, with just, again, there was a little bit of a knock with Nolan. He had an injury history with Georgia as well.
Sure.
Are there any concerns with his durability? Anything with Superman there?
I don't worry about that right now. Like, I know there's been things in the past. I mean, I look at Landon Dickerson coming out of the draft. Like, that was something I was very concerned about.
Yeah.
And we have been fine. As far as the shoulder injury, like I know there was a lot of people in my comment section, and probably you guys too, panicking about his shoulder injury last week. But I'm like, like, it's like we still got a whole nother week before a game. So if he wasn't practicing or involved now, I would start to worry. But the fact that he's getting ready to go, I think we'll be fine. I actually, when it comes to injuries, I'm not worried about the rookies. I'm worried about the running backs. That's where I worry about injuries.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. And I'll admit, I was one of the people that was a little bit curious as to why he wouldn't practice at all. I was like, he's a rookie, he needs the reps. But very clearly today, it seemed like they basically were treating him as a veteran and not wanting him to re-aggravate it, give him a couple of days off and rest it. And that seems to be the case. Right. He seems to be fine. The quote today was, does a bear, poop in the woods? Is he going to play? And the answer is yes. So I'll use a different word for poop. So it's what it is.
Yeah.
Bunch of people watching tonight. Want to get a couple of super chats in. Shane Baker, 2 entries. Mott Special 500. Are you kidding me? One love. We appreciate that. Pretty good ring to it there for the 3 of us on all of our different channels. And then throw up Romeo Talon. He's got 20 entries. He says, whoa, all 3 of you boys rolling together. This is amazing. Need this for him like every 4 games or for beginning of playoffs and Super Bowl. I think for sure playoffs, we'll all jump back on here. And
whenever you guys want.
Super Bowl too, for sure.
That'd be awesome. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Got you down.
Absolutely.
You said Shane was 2?
Yeah, Shane was 2 and Romeo Talon is
and we got
20.
Romeo. Yep.
Gambo says 500, the hottest dude on this podcast. Can't wait for him to drop the next squash cobbler video. There you go. There's a good comment
he's
there.
talking about my OnlyFans account.
Okay, is that what he's talking about?
Yeah. I have an OnlyFans account. Yeah.
Link in the description box, probably. Link in the description box.
There you go.
Yeah. Dr. Willow 1 says, when is the punt god coming? Any intel why the Eagles are scared to bring him in? This question is not about the punt god, because I'm sure you've answered that before, and we all have too. The NFL is not interested in signing him at the moment. Punter, I mean, it seems like it's Sipos today. He was holding, at least for the videos we all saw, which for Jake Elliott's field goal attempts, it looks like Sipos is going to be the guy for now.
Yeah. Well, with the punt god, there's obviously more going on than we're led to believe and stuff. There's still a lot of stuff, I think, that the NFL is just staying away. So, I just take it for what it is. But I think the biggest problem, the biggest question mark is the punter, because I don't understand how this team could be comfortable with Aaron Sipos and just giving him a punting job just because he's a good holder for Jake Elliott. To me, is not enough of a reason to keep him. I'm very worried that one of our losses this year is going to be because of the bad special teams.
Really?
Because it doesn't seem like the Eagles put a lot into it. And I don't understand why. How much can it cost you to go out and get another punter? It can't cost you a lot of money. So
not a lot.
I just don't get it. He's not good.
Yeah.
He's not good. And it's just shocking to me. Now, they got him on the practice squad. They're working out other punters. So we know that they're looking. The question is, will they find one in time for week 1? Probably not. and they can bring him up 3 times before they have to make a decision. So who knows? To me, that's the great mystery of the Philadelphia Eagles this year.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck are you doing?
Well,
with
and the
your
fact
punt?
that they worked out like 4 punters or 3 punters the past couple of days and didn't sign any of them. It's like, were they bad? Did you not like them? Did you think they were better than Sipos? It's like Brandon Mann was right there, and everyone wants Brandon Mann in my comment section, and then they didn't sign him. So.
Right.
Yeah. And who cares, honestly? Like, if it's me, and again, this is probably terrible advice here, but who cares how they worked out? I've seen what they've done on the field. Sign Braden Mann, sign Brett Gillikin, sign anybody. Like, anybody is a better option than Sipos at this point. But I'm with you. It's we've had this conversation quite a bit. Thomas and I were doing it in the lull when there was nothing to talk about between the draft and training camp. But it's like, what's going to be the weakness? What's going to be the potential area that causes the team some hiccups or concerns? And it's special teams, right? Like, I mean, I was kind of surprised. I don't know if you were, but surprised as far as Michael Clay coming back, getting the extension or getting the extra offer there. So that was like, okay, well, I mean, they seem to be a little bit of holes, but okay, if we want to sign him, that's great, and keep him. There's apparently some potential that we can't exactly see, but yeah, like the whole punter situation, and then even the return game, right? Like, I mean, we've seen it in the preseason of, oh, hey, maybe the potential for a Devin Allen. Like we got to see something that could be there. He's on the practice squad now, so it looks like Boston Scott is going to probably, if you trust that unofficial depth chart, but probably going to return. He was doing it today in practice, but then the next guy right behind him sounded like Rashad Penny. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not totally against that, but at the same time, I'm with you. Like, if there is one part of the game and you have to win in all 3 phases, it's special teams, and there's a little bit to be concerned on that side. There's not a for sure that I'm going into it saying, yep, we've got it locked down.
Right. Well, the kick return doesn't concern me as much because all you have to do is fair catch it. You're at the 25 now, no matter where you are. Horrible rule, by the way. But the punt return game, like, I'm like, I don't understand it. You had Devin Allen made that great return as a kick returner. Why didn't you put him back at a on punts one time? Let's see what he can do with that speed. So I'm assuming, what is it, Oz? Are they saying Oz is going to be the punt returner?
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how good he is or not, so who knows? But I'm telling you, I'm ready to bring Randall Cunningham out of retirement because Randall Cunningham could kick better than Sipos. But I think that there's going to be a game we're going to lose, and it's going to be I think it's going to be special teams.
That'd be very interesting. Very interesting week in the world of Philly media. I'm sure 94.1 WIP would have a field day if that turns out to be a true prediction. I can't even imagine. Gambo just did the $5 super chat to say this the same thing he did earlier. 500, the sexiest man on the panel. Can't wait for the next squash cobbler video. He's getting in there. And we'll do 10 from Andrea Bland. What's up, guys? What up, Philly? Thomas kept the secret under wraps last week. Love this. Love you guys. Appreciate you, Andrea, jumping in here as well. Was there a training camp move, I should say, from a roster perspective that surprised you a little bit? For me, it was Christian Ellis, right? Christian Ellis was somebody who, he appears at OTAs, he intercepts, Jalen Hurts, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, do we have a young linebacker who might actually be really good in the mold of TJ Edwards from the same undrafted and making his way up there? And then he gets starter reps in training camp. You're like, wait a second, okay, hang on, this is going to be Ellis and Dean. Right. And then suddenly they sign Zach Cunningham out of nowhere, right? I mean, no one had Zach Cunningham's name on their tongue. They sign him. He starts now. Did that surprise you, or was there something else?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it surprised me because I really thought it was going to be Miles Jack that was going to come in and start, But Cunningham, if healthy, from everything that we've seen in his past, he's a player. He can play. You know what really surprised me, honestly? The lack of moves really surprised me. I really thought that Howie was going to pull the trigger on like a safety or something. Yeah. If you look at the recent history of the Eagles this time of year, they make a move. They did it in 2017. They did it last year. They've done it quite often. So I really thought he was going to make a move for something. I didn't know what, but I thought he would have made a move, and I thought they were a little quiet. That surprised me more than anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah, definitely with the cap space too. I think we were sitting there saying the same thing, like, are we going to see a move? Is Howie going to do anything? And even with cut down day, right? I mean, like, whenever we looked at that, what was Howie's comment? Something to the fact that it's a very fluid situation. The roster's going to change a whole lot. Well, we didn't really see a whole lot of change. And I'm sure that doesn't mean, or I can guarantee you that doesn't mean that he wasn't trying. But as we know, I mean, the waivers, you're not going to get everyone that you want, and you're not going to be able to get those signings. So he's doing his homework and he's doing his due diligence. I guess the one takeaway from that, or the positive, I think, is like, you've got a lot of cap space still. You've got plenty of time. So if at some point in the season you're like, we need to solidify a piece or add somebody or trade for someone, you've got some flexibility there, which will be nice. But curious, and going back to, we were kind of talking about the schedule, and you mentioned special teams possibly costing Eagles a game. We look at this schedule, right? And it's difficult. It is difficult on paper. Sometimes, teams are better or worse than what we expect. But just, you look at it, face value, it's a difficult schedule, especially kind of that middle portion of the 8 or 9 games in a row. So Thomas and I have said this quite a bit. Like, you have to get out to a positive start. You can't afford to be stumbling out of the blocks. Curious to hear your thoughts, though, in that beginning stretch. And Thomas, if you want to pull it up, if it helps to have it on the screen. But so as far as just kind of the beginning, 6 or 7 games, is there a particular team, if you're going to pick out a team that the Eagles might stumble, or that potential that we wouldn't really expect as much?
Well, yeah, I think out of the gate, like I've done some videos, like even short term, I think it's very important to start 2-0, because you got a Thursday night game with Minnesota. I believe this, and Dallas fans hate me for, but I think they're starting 0-2. I think they're going to start 0-2. So if you get up to a 2-game lead real quick, that's an amazing thing. I think the Eagles win. I think they're going to win most of their games, if not all of them, leading up to that bye week. I do think the one game I wonder about is the Jets game. Now, I know we've never lost to the Jets in the history of our team, but if Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers of a few years ago, that may be the first time I think we lose this year. But it just depends. What are you going to get from Aaron Rodgers? I don't know what Aaron Rodgers is right now. So that's what I would say. And then, I think, the Eagles should beat New England. They should beat Minnesota. Then they're at Tampa. They don't worry me. You never can say for sure with a division team. So Washington usually is a split with us.
Right.
So we got to be careful with that. But I mean, I think you got to start early. I think you got to start hot, because I think after that bye week, going to Kansas City and then Buffalo, those are tough games. And I really think that the offense is going to carry us early. I think the offense carries us early and the defense adjusts. And I think by the end of the year, it's going to be the other way around. I think the defense is going to start to play good football. But I think the offense got to carry you early. I mean, none of these teams on the schedule scare me, except for, and they don't even scare me, the Jets. I just wonder what you're getting from Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
But when you get to that Kansas City, Buffalo, those games they get really tough. San Francisco is going to be a huge game. Then you got to go to Dallas at Seattle. I mean, that's a tough stretch. So I do think it's important to jump out early this year and start off really well.
I mean, I agree with the Jets part of that. I think Aaron Rodgers is on some sort of crazy revenge tour. I think he's going to literally pull a Tom Brady year 1 in Tampa Bay, where he said, all right, you guys thought that, it was Devontae Adams or it was the Green Bay Matt LaFleur offense. Like watch me just run roughshod through the entire AFC. I honestly think that week 2 is going to be tough. And I don't think a lot of people are mentioning the Minnesota Vikings, because we've owned the Minnesota Vikings over the course of the Kirk Cousins career. But that team is still very talented. That roster is still very, very good. They added some pieces in the draft, and it feels like this is their chance to kind of have a revenge game against us, because that week 2 matchup on Monday Night Football was extremely embarrassing last year and was kind of looming over the Vikings the entire season. And so, while I think the Eagles are definitely better than the Minnesota Vikings and are a much better roster overall, it feels like maybe a big Justin Jefferson game or a good Kirk Cousins game, albeit in prime time. Hard to believe. But those are the two that I would say. Other than that, like you said, Washington's a split, but you should beat Washington at Sam Howell. It's only week 4. The Bucs are going to be trash. I think the Los Angeles Rams, especially with the whole Cooper Kupp situation, not that great. And then you see what you have with Tua in terms of health by the time that he gets to Philadelphia on that Sunday night. So I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be very, very interesting.
That could be an interesting game, because that could be one of those games where it's a 38-35. That Miami game. That could be a like one of those classic games on prime time, because that team's got some weapons. I just don't know about Tua.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Quickly here, let's get another entry into our signed mini helmet by DeAndre Swift. Philly John Wick says, appreciate you guys. Those almost here. Let's go. Josh got those 2 entries in there. Drop
Got
any
you down.
super chat between now and probably the third quarter of the first game on Sunday. And we're going to be giving away to a random super chatter. So getting that one locked in as well. Of course, a lot of people watching with Philly 500. Be sure to give a like, thumbs up, sub to all 3 channels. A couple of comments here. Nady Banks says, how you guys doing? We miss Enjoy Shakes tonight. I'm liking the Birds odds starting 5-0. Week 6, we got Jets. Might be a battle. You're deaf right. We need to start hot. The hot part is true, too. And I think you just mentioned that 500. Because that latter part of the schedule, there's no way you win them all. There's no way that you win 80% of those games. I mean, we can go back to the list as I pull it up here. You look at Kansas City, Buffalo, San Francisco, Dallas, Seattle. If you win 2 of those 4, fantastic. Right. Really good. But if you're trying to battle it out for an NFC East division title, or even worse, trying to stay alive for a bye, you got to have enough wins locked up, or else you're going to be sitting in an ugly spot come the time when people are banged up and injured late into November and December.
Yeah, that Chiefs game is a tough one because we're coming. Not only are we coming off a bye week, but the Chiefs are coming off a bye week too. So both teams are going to be well rested. Andy Reid has a pretty good track record when it comes to off the bye. That's one of those games that I just think that's a tough spot for the Eagles. I think I could see them losing that game and bouncing back versus Buffalo the following week. It's at home, but I do. I think you got to start off hot. I do, and I think it's going to be the offense. I think the defense will take time to adjust to a new coordinator. But by that second half of the year, I really think the defense is going to start playing really good football.
I think so too. And I'm looking forward to it. I think all of us are. We opened with obviously talking about Jonathan Gannon and the lack of whatever you want to call him, but Desai being in here. I mean, he said all the right things, but to your point, 500, like we have to see it, right? Like we have to see it actually on the field. I'm excited about he wants to impact the quarterback and how he's taking those different variations, moving guys around the field. I mean, it seems like he's just wanting as many playmakers as you can have out there. But to your point, I mean, yeah, there's a gelling that happens. You got to have the chemistry, get everyone to kind of fit into the scheme. But I could definitely see that, which again, the beauty, I guess, of the schedule, like we've been looking at is, I mean, you do have some time to kind of get that, one side of the right. ball carrying the other. And so you have the defense there that can kind of catch up towards the later end of the season. But I'm excited about it. The other thing too, and I got to mention this because talking about one of those games especially, and I know how you feel about Kelly Green, so we have to bring it up because we haven't actually talked. We've been on social media before about it, but the Kelly Greens dropping, I mean, I think we all know like how fire those jerseys are, and I cannot wait. But I just got to hear, I mean, your take on the Kelly Green jerseys, and we're playing it, what, 2 games? It's against it's Miami and Buffalo, right? Am I remembering that correctly? It's those 2?
Miami and Buffalo.
Yeah. So the fact that the Kelly Greens are back and that we got those jerseys, I got to hear it straight from you. How was that as soon as we got the official drop?
It was like a dream come true. I mean, I ever since I've been on here, I've been doing 2 to 3 videos a year talking about bringing back Kelly Green, the need to bring back Kelly Green. Ever since I've been on here, and it's funny because people said you're crazy, it'll never happen. Then maybe, and then now it did. But I've never adjusted to the whole midnight green in Newton, and the Eagles logo as it is. When I look at the Eagles logo, right, you guys see an eagle face, right? You see I see a giant E. I see the letter E. Right. That's what I see when I look at that logo. I just never, I never got used to it. So to me, it feels like the Eagles are back. That's how I feel. And I think the Kelly Green that they did, I think it looks really good. I think it looks really, really good. Matter of fact, that's the number 1 alternate selling jersey in the history of the NFL. I think people are going to want to see more of it. So, yeah, I'm excited. I wish they would have used it against Dallas or did it with the Giants on Christmas Day. The Miami and Buffalo, I wish it was better choices. But other than that, I mean, I love it.
Whose jerseys did you get in Kelly Green?
The only one I got so far is Devontae Smith. Okay. I only got Devontae Smith so far. But I think the next one, I'm trying to decide if I want to do Reddick or Nolan Smith. It's going to be one of those 2.
Feels like Reddick's going to need a new contract after what Nick Bosa got today. That was unbelievable. $34 million.
man.
And Reddick's
Yeah.
getting like $15 million a year or something crazy like that.
Mhm.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
We're lucky he's not holding out.
Well, how do you think future Eagle Micah Parsons feels right now? Because
Yeah.
he's looking at a big payday,
Yeah, he
and
is.
Dallas has to be sick about that.
Yeah, they have to be. And same with the Chiefs and, was it Chris Jones? Chris Jones is out
Yeah.
there, handing out burgers at McDonald's today saying he's underpaid before this happened. Now he's really underpaid after this happened. Crazy.
The thing with the 49ers is you can do all that because you have no quarterback.
Yeah,
But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, you still don't have a quarterback. I do not believe in Brock Purdy
I don't either.
at all. I'm
I don't either.
sorry. And then who are they going to bring in? Sam Darnold? I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I just they could do all the signings they want. To me, until they get a quarterback, they're not going to Super Bowl.
No, I agree. But Shanahan, his delusion continues because he believes in
Yeah.
Darnold just as much as he does with Purdy. So
Yeah.
I think Thomas and I watched enough of Purdy because we're Baylor grads, so plenty of Big
Yes,
12 action
plenty.
to know Purdy was
Right.
decent. But come on, he's not the. I agree with you. I don't think he's the answer. I also don't think that the whole scheme of take your backup tight end and block the best pass rusher on the other team is the best answer either. But I mean
No.
that's just
No.
that's what he chose to do, and thankfully he did.
Thank
And the NFL
God.
changed the rule for it. So they're trying to make it easier for the 49ers in that way. But no, I am looking forward to that game. Speaking of the 49ers, Thomas and I were there at the championship game, the NFC championship game, and the feeling was electric, obviously beforehand. But I mean, when Haason
Yeah.
made that play, it just
it
went
was
through
wild.
the roof. It's crazy. Best experience I've ever had, probably at any sporting event
Yeah.
ever. But the fact that now, like all the talk that they've done on that, I mean, it's Debo and Brandon Ayuk and Shanahan, who said, he doesn't, doesn't enjoy going there, or his wife in a certain scenario there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Fred
all the
Warner's
stuff that's
wife,
come
too,
up.
right?
Hey, Fred Warner's wife. Yeah,
is scared
everyone.
to death.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's just like you add all of this and the fact that it's going to be later on the season. I just really hope, and again, I never wish injuries on anybody, but I hope that we can go into
Yeah.
that as clean as possible for both teams. So there are
Yeah.
no excuses.
Right.
There's nothing that they could say other than, here we go. We're going to play
Yeah.
and let's answer it on the field. I can't wait. And Hassan's obviously spoken out
I
about that
agree.
too. Like that's the circled game
Yeah,
for
he
him.
did. Yeah, I agree. I just don't understand how the 49ers, they can even complain. Like, if Purdy got hurt in warm-ups or walking to the locker room or something like that, then yeah, you could say, well, if we had him and we didn't have all these injuries. But when
Right.
the Eagles inflicted the injury upon you, then
Yeah.
I don't see how you could talk. That's kind of what football is, And so to me, I don't see how they could even complain.
But they do.
I
But
agree.
they do. Nonetheless, they still do it,
But
and they
they
do it
Blame
all
your
the
head
time.
coach.
They do.
Honestly.
Even the head coach. And it is interesting
know.
that it's going to be that far in terms of it being like a Week 12 game, and hopefully, like Josh said, both teams are going to remain unscathed. But obviously, we will see. I got to get to some super chats here. Obviously, some entries into our DeAndre Swift mini helmet giveaway. Self-made entertainment. He gets 2 entries. He says, "Go Birds." Appreciate that as always. Nice little Go Birds there.
Appreciate it.
Donatello Dragon says, "I'm alone in the 17-0 island. LOL. Go Birds." What is your record prediction? 500. Do you have a? I think I'm at 11 wins. Is kind of where I'm sitting. What's yours?
I float around. I float around between 11 and 14.
14.
I think it'll be somewhere in there. Yeah,
Okay.
I think the Eagles are going to be every bit as dominant as they were last year.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, the way I look at it is this conference is actually weaker than it was a year ago.
Yeah.
And you have no Brady and you have no Aaron Rodgers. So yeah, the AFC games, you got some tough matchups: Buffalo, Kansas City. But I think the rest of it, I think we're gonna just go right through. So I think another between 11 and 14 wins somewhere in that area.
Okay. Paul Fedora, 2 entries here. He says Belichick's a 500 coach without Brady. Yeah, but he also is probably the one coach that we're really afraid of to play Week 1, right? I mean, out of all the coaches that you could have
Yeah,
multiple
sure.
months to plan for Jalen
Outside
Hurts,
of
you'd probably
Andy
pick Belichick and Andy Reid. Sure. But
Yeah.
if there was
No,
a defensive-minded guy that we were a little scared of, I'll admit. I mean, I think this could be a trap game on Sunday. The Eagles should win it, like we talked about at the very beginning. But there could easily be a scenario where the front line of the New England Patriots, gets after Jalen Hurts a little bit, and the Eagle defense gets a little more shredded than it should. Zeke Elliott's always historically been good against Philly, despite the fact he's 50 years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to make an excuse for why it could be a trap game, but Yeah, sure. You can make the case Belichick's a 500 coach without Brady, but still, he's still a good coach. You got to respect going into this game.
And that's,
Yeah,
I think, why
he's
they
one.
are, especially for the line that they set, right? I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but it's a little bit surprising as well for the -3.5. I mean, Philly
Yeah.
being a 3.5 favorite there, I would have thought it'd be a little bit more, but it's Tom Brady day, and like you mentioned there, Thomas, like I mean, he's got plenty of time to prepare. And also, I think there's a tweet, Brett Coleman, yeah, he said here, the Eagles' worst offensive game last season came against the Colts of all teams, and the Colts played cover 1 53% of the time. And then
Oh,
he also brought up a couple other instances of playing cover 3 against them. So basically taking away the middle of the field closed coverages and then playing zone. I guess there's something to that. I don't understand the analytics, I'll be honest, as much, but there's something to that. So if he can pick it out, there's no doubt, like you mentioned, that Belichick's been planning. But I'm
sure.
also interested to see the extra wrinkles, because I think 500, you mentioned this as we were talking earlier, but with the D Swift trade, I mean, that's an
Right.
extra wrinkle that no teams have seen, right? Because it's always been the knock of
Right.
Jalen doesn't throw to the running back. Well, now he's going to. So I'm pumped to see that.
Right.
I really can't wait to see that extra wrinkle.
Yeah, that may have been the case last year, but you're not going to win. I mean, you're not going to go out and score 40, 50 points every game. There are going to be games where you struggle for whatever the reason is, and that Colts game was just one of those games. We won at the end. I don't put a lot of stock in that. I mean, I think Belichick will have a plan. I think he'll probably try to get pressure on Jalen Hurts, try to confuse him. He'll do things like that. But with the Eagles' offense and the adjustments that they've made, we have a new offensive coordinator as well. So it's going to look a little different, even though it'll be pretty similar. It'll be different in some ways.
Yeah.
I just don't think at the end of the day they can keep up with the Eagles. You're talking about the first game of the year. Usually, defenses get tired a lot quicker. Teams get tired by that fourth quarter. I just think the Eagles have too many weapons and will put too much pressure on that defense to keep them in. The only way they win is they got to keep Mac Jones and that offense on the field, and they've got to run for 200 yards. If they don't run for 200 yards, I don't think they win this game.
Paul Fedora's super chat backs that up, saying Pat's down 3 offensive linemen. Jalen Carter is going to eat. So they not only have to run for 200 yards, that they have to do it without, for sure, the right tackle, and then the guard's been banged up as well. So good point there.
Did you guys hear about Juju, about his knees ready to explode?
Yeah, but then there was also that report that said that it wasn't true, right? Didn't he come out and say, like, what do we believe about that?
But who writes a report that his knees are about to explode? What do you mean it's going to explode? That's crazy.
Exactly. It's a ticking time bomb. I want to know. Albert Breer was the one who reported that first. I want to know who's feeding him that information, and then also being confident enough to just go with it rather than confirm with Juju to say, "Oh no, his knee is literally a ticking time bomb that's going to explode." That's the most ridiculous thing ever. But yes, like to your point, he says that, and then Juju comes back and says, "If anything, it's getting stronger." So I guess you believe the guy who it's his actual knee. But at the same time,
I guess.
I mean, why else would Breer make this up?
It's an excuse if James Bradbury locks him down. If Bradbury locks him down, then his knee was always bad. If he balls, then he was fine. It was a fake report. That's exactly what it is. Exactly what it is.
If I was the Eagles, I'd be making TikToks of his knee exploding, like to get him back for all the TikToks he did. Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You could. You very well could.
All the childish antics that he pulled. Oh my gosh.
What is this? Canic Shep with 5. He says, I think it'd be great if Blankenship does a repeat performance by picking off Rodgers again. Keep up the good work, guys. Love watching us. Go Birds. Blankenship, someone we haven't even talked about, definitely a surprise this offseason. I thought for sure it was going to be a wide open competition for both safety spots, and then literally it was not at all. Blankenship was the day one starter. I don't think he ever didn't take first team reps. They rested him with the rest of the starters during the preseason. Here's a guy who was undrafted last year, started maybe half the games, with C.J. Gardner-Johnson being out, yet they've given him the keys to the castle. It's been very impressive to see how much trust they have in Reed Blankenship going into year 2.
Yeah, I mean, we got to see some flashes with him last year. Especially, I think he's a good hitter, man. He hits, but I still think there are some questions about him, especially in the passing game, that I think we got to wait and see. You just got to assume that the Eagles know what they're looking at and they like what they see, because that would suck if we get in a situation where he becomes a weak link. But I do think that it is kind of wait and see. I need to see more from Reed Blankenship before I can say, yeah, I think
Okay.
we're good with him for the
Okay.
future.
Fair
At
enough.
least for me, at least.
Right. Coverage is definitely one of those, especially against some of these high flying offenses. You talk about playing against Tyreek and Waddle, right? That's going to be a great opportunity to see how good he's actually going to be. Danto Dragon with a 5. He says, got that 88 Daily G. I think he means Kelly Green. Oh, no, he means Dallas Goddard. Sorry. Thanks to Thomas and Josh on the big play slate on the way. You are welcome. Romeo Town says, what's the knock on Purdy? 10 entries here outside of the injury. He's an upgrade over everything they had. Not an unfair point, but for me, I think you guys would agree. They all talked like Purdy was the next coming of Steve Young, and it was like he was playing well, but he wasn't playing that well. He wasn't the best quarterback in the league. It was like, okay, calm down a little bit. He's in a good offense that's going to benefit him. Let's see him do it for a little bit longer. That was kind of my take on Purdy. He's not bad, but is he, the next great NFC quarterback? I think most of us would say, hold your horses a little bit here.
No, you got to, a lot of teams didn't have a book on him. Let's see what he looks like when a team's got a year to kind of get him on tape and see what he's all about. I think that it's way too early to think that Brock Purdy is some franchise quarterback, and the 49ers to go with him the way they did. I think it's a risk. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be bad. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But I think I haven't seen enough of him. And there was nothing impressive against us that made me go, wow, So we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think that you need to see more from him, although there's always the people that are going to say, what is he like? I saw this stat. He's like 8-0 if you want to count the games that he played at least 3 quarters in. So you can make stats tell whatever story you want to, but he's played good so far. He's a really good quarterback according to that. But no, I think it's a system.
But how many times did he like how many times a game was he throwing the ball? Like that's what I would like to know.
Right.
Like how many, 15 times, 20 times a game? I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well, it's worth at least mentioning. I pulled it up here. You can see his numbers, right? These are the passing numbers for Purdy. 210, 185, 217, 234, 284, 178. So he never even sniffed 300, albeit against, the Raiders in overtime. So he had more yards and more time to throw. But I don't know. This isn't the Brock Purdy hate show, but it's just like let's see a little bit more here before we start really freaking out.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, we have hated on Jonathan Gannon, and rightfully so. Gambo does the, did you drive or take the bus here? They should put a fire in your belly, missiles and fireworks, pew, pew, pew. Jonathan Gannon, horse face. The Cardinal players, you feel bad for Zach Ertz, man. You forget he exists because it feels like he's been banished to purgatory to serve, 100 years on Davy Jones' ship. But he's got to be hating his life right now. With the Eagles being super good, knowing he could have been on another championship team, and instead he literally is on the worst football team. Josh Dobbs is their starter after Colt McCoy was their quarterback all preseason long. Like, what are we doing? It's very sad. It honestly is very sad to watch.
They're not taking it.
Listen, I hope they lose. I hope they lose every game. I don't want him to get first round pick, the first pick overall, but man, I hate that guy. He's got a little bit of Chip Dip Kelly in him. Like
is he worse than Kelly in your mind? Is he worse?
Yeah, he's worse. I think he's worse. He's worse. Yeah. I can't forgive him about that Super Bowl. I'm sorry. If you look at the whole incident, right, it's such a weird thing because you had, right before the draft started, we get this news that the Eagles moved up however many picks, and it was a settlement with this whole Arizona thing. Nobody even knew that happened. Mm-hmm. And I think the NFL covered this thing up. I think this was way bigger than they let on. I think the NFL swept it under the rug. And I think the Eagles were pissed off because remember, like a month later or something, Howie Roseman goes on Pro Football Talk with Mike Florio, and they try to bring it up, and he didn't want anything. He was like getting annoyed. He didn't want anything to do with it. Like I think the Eagles were pissed off with everything we heard. He was smiling and happy after the game after they lost. And I think that was a much bigger deal than we're led to believe. I think the NFL swept it under the rug.
Might have been. And to do it during round 1 of the draft would make sense because we immediately went move on. Who's being picked?
Right, exactly.
Josh H goes two super chats here. Don't forget Matt Patricia. Does Patricia help at all this week, 500? I mean, people are like, well, he's been in the Bill Belichick system, so he must help them game plan.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what to think about the whole Matt Patricia thing here. So I mean, we'll just wait and see. I mean, I guess he can help him with certain things, but Belichick is too cagey. He's going to come up with stuff that he's probably never done before. You know, he's a hell of a coach that way.
I agree. I mean,
don't know.
I think that he'll come up with a lot of wrinkles. So you probably won't get a huge advantage. I mean, although I will say that if there's any part to it that I guess you could glean or try to just get a little bit of an advantage, might be more so of just like the tendency of Mac Jones, like what he does well or what he doesn't do well. Because I
Right.
think Mac Jones even said something like, hey, we worked a lot together. Patricia's a great coach. We had a lot of camaraderie there. So if anything, maybe a little bit of tendencies for the player. But I agree with you. I think even in our minds, if we're thinking about this, then Belichick is definitely thinking about it. But if I've got a coach that
Right.
goes to another team and I'm going to play them, the first thing I'm going to do is be like, all right, we got to scrap it. We got to start doing something different, because although I guess, the Titans and AJ Brown saying, hey, they still run the same plays. Like, this is
Yeah.
what it's called. So,
Yeah.
there might be a little bit to it, but I think Belichick's a little bit different.
Right.
He might not be in that same category.
Yeah. No, I agree. 100% agree.
Kinda High 215 says go Birds, be at the 49er game. Great game to be at. Are you going to the Rams game this year? You going to any Eagles games?
As of right now, I am not going to any Eagles games. I'm definitely not going to the Rams one. If I go, it'll be because I'm back home for the holidays, and then
Okay.
if I go home for the holidays, I will. But as
There you
of
go.
right now, no.
There you go. The Rams one. You don't want to tackle the LA traffic or what? What's the no interest in SoFi?
That's like 8 hours for me to travel. I'm
yeah,
not
never
going
mind.
up to LA.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Good point.
No,
California's a big state.
I'd rather
I forget
stay
that.
home I'd rather stay home and stream it.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
feel
wanna
that.
go.
I feel that.
I'll go to, like, if I go to Philly, like if I go home for holidays and visit family, I'll go to games. But
There you go.
until
Okay.
then, probably not.
Romeo Talon, 10 entries in here. Josh, he says, like the question, who y'all got scoring our opening touchdown this season? I'm picking Devontae Smith, corner fade. Love to be Jalen Hurts, and the line mushing to rub it into the league. I guess if you have a betting question, who do you want to bet on the Eagles scoring first? I've seen a lot of Kenny G's as being your first scorer. What about Jalen Hurts quarterback sneak? It feels like they'll get down to the one and just Jalen Hurts quarterback sneak it in. That'd be my guess.
I got it. It's gonna be 2nd and 3, the Eagles 40, and we're gonna get a wheel route to DeAndre Swift
Okay.
for the touchdown.
There you go.
There you
Opening
go.
drive.
There you
DeAndre
go.
Swift on the wheel route.
Okay. That's a big play from the Eagles 40.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
there
That's
you
a
go.
big call.
Statement
I hope
play.
we see it.
You heard it here first.
I hope we do.
Yeah,
You
me
heard it
too.
here first. Let's see. A couple of questions that are coming in here. Would be nice to see Smith get a 40-yard catch at the Patriots 15 line. Kenny G will bust a move and run in the end zone for me. Do you think Kenny G is going to be their lead back in terms of carries this year? Because that was rumored all off season long. It was like Kenny G's with the ones again. Kenny G got the most carries in training camp. Nope.
No. I know. I mean, I know a lot of people think he's the number one guy now, and I don't believe he is. I don't believe he's the number. I think he's a great rotational back. But I haven't seen, and I know he had a good playoffs, but I haven't
Sure.
seen enough that I can think he's a number one back. I think DeAndre Swift is your number one back, and he'll take it over. It may take a few weeks. They may use a lot of rotation, but I think at the end of the day, I think it's DeAndre Swift. I think he's your number one back.
I agree. I'm right there with you. Honestly, in my opinion, the only way if Kenny G is leading this team in carries is you're dealing with significant injuries. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah, it's Swift's got to be the guy because there's too much of the dynamic part. And yes, you could say, well, Kenny G didn't play in the first preseason game. And like Thomas, you were saying, like the reports of Kenny G is the number one, or he's going to be the guy that's going to go with it first. He's had more of the 2-minute offense and the situational football. But to me, that's just like he's been here, right? So, I mean, he's going to get some of those carries early on. So if over the course of the first 2 or 3 games, you're like, oh, Kenny G's kind of leading in terms of the carries, it may be by a slim margin, but that's only because I feel like they're trying to just work DeAndre Swift into the offense more. But if he stays healthy, I mean, I'm with you. There's no way you let a guy Agent Zero. He's wearing 0 for a reason. Like, I mean, you got to put him in. There's too much that he offers to this offense that the other guys can't do. So he's got to be playing. I would think so.
I mean, let me ask you guys a question. Honestly, you go back to that first game last year we played Detroit, and DeAndre Swift went off.
Yeah.
Do you look at Kenneth Gainwell and say, yeah, he can do that? I don't think he can put that kind of game on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I think that he can have a good game, and we know playoff Kenny, right? I mean,
Yeah,
we've seen
good
him
game.
against the Giants,
Yeah.
but to say to that level of a DeAndre Swift to be, it's like just a different tier to me, honestly. I mean, it's like a different game
agree.
breaker, a guy who can go out there and do that. I would say, if anything, that DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny are closer to the same level. If you're going to ask me, can a running back go and have that type of an impact? I think it'd be Rashad Penny, quite honestly. Not in the receiving game, but I think as far as rushing the football, like if he stays healthy, I think he could be up there at the D Swift level. But yeah, I mean, Gainwell's good. I don't want to just hate on him. That's not what we're trying to do. But yeah, if we're just compare those, I don't think so.
Yeah. What's so weird, and I'll play a little devil's advocate, although I do agree. I would take Swift over Gainwell in a head-to-head running back battle. Swift slowly got less carries last year with Detroit after balling out against us week 1, and Gainwell slowly got more. And it was so weird because I was a big Miles Sanders guy. I was like, run Sanders, and was he injured, was he not? But when it mattered most, it was like, there's Kenny G again. I mean, they ran all the time in the 49er game, and yet with Detroit, they had this great running back in Agent Zero, and it was Jamal Williams nonstop. They hardly ran him. And I know my girlfriend had him on her fantasy team, and she would complain every single week that Jamal Williams would get touchdowns and DeAndre Swift wouldn't. So, it's like, I just wonder. I think the Eagles believe Kenny Gainwell is as good or better than DeAndre Swift, but I think most of us would agree it's probably Swift until we're proven wrong, and we'll see. They have a chance to prove us wrong, but time will tell. A lot of people asking for U500 to pronounce Albert O's last name, a $2 entry here.
I saw that.
Any chance he can rise the tight end depth chart? Can you give us a little taste of that last name?
Oh my gosh.
Oh
my God. I literally have people subscribe to me because they want to see me try to pronounce these guys' names. Albert Aquinonova.
Close enough. I think Josh has it down. I think Josh has it, right?
Alkubanam is about as close as I can get.
Is that how you say it? Is it Akubanam?
I may be butchering it, honestly. So that's the thing that I've figured is if you just go faster, you just blend the syllables all together, it probably sounds more confident. I think he's on his Twitter, isn't it?
I try to get quieter. So it's like,
that's a good tactic there as well. Like you said it, you just didn't hear me.
I think he does have it on his Twitter. I'm trying to pull it up right now. My Twitter just
I was going to say, it's an issue for people saying it whenever he does.
He has it here.
But the phonetics on that are too difficult. Like, I looked at that and I'm like...
Okwoo Abunum. Okwoo. So it's Okwoo. Okwoo Abunum.
Okwoo Abunum.
See, the OKWUE is hard for us to get. It throws us off a little bit. Oh my goodness.
Just go with Alberto or Big Al. Just keep it simple.
I want to see Jim Nantz do it on Sunday. I want Jim Nantz to have to say his name.
I literally have people who are like, I subscribe to you because I want to wait to see what names you're going to mess up next. Like, literally, that's... I'm like, oh my gosh.
Mike Lee's got a $2 super chat here. He didn't say anything, so we'll just assume that he was wanting to hear you say it as well. So super chat answered right there.
Probably for the attempt.
Donatello Dragon says, love y'all, but Kenny G doubt is wild. I don't think we're doubting him. I think we're just really buying into the DeAndre Swift Kool-Aid, right? I think we're all just drinking the DeAndre Swift Agent Zero Kool-Aid.
Yeah. I'm not doubting him. I just think DeAndre Swift has the ceiling to be like a top 5 to 10 back if he could stay healthy and put it all together. I think he's got that kind of ceiling. So it's not anything against Kenny G. It's not. I like the kid, but I think he's a rotational guy.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think it's just a question, honestly, like the way that we could ask it is, I mean, who do you want on your fantasy team? Who do you going to pick if you have to take a running back? And it's DeAndre Swift. There's just too much weapon there. So I don't know. I'm interested to see it because we were trying to pronounce the tight end's name. We got to ask it, and I'm not going to say the name again or try to. But Albert O, as he will be called. I mean, that was an interesting move, right? I mean, there's some potential there that we've seen, the athleticism that he has now from all the scouting report, and I did a video on him. I think everybody talked about him a little bit. There's some pass blocking and some potential even run blocking issues with Alberto. Can he do that? Would he be able to? But curious to see, I mean, 500, do you think this is Do you think this is like a long-term move? Do you think very soon we might see him inserted into the offense? It wouldn't surprise me if it takes a couple weeks just for him to get acclimated, but how quickly do you think he makes an impact, if at all?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question because, I think Jack Stahl's there because he can block. And then
Yeah.
Calcaterra, to me, what we got to see a Calcaterra last year, I thought he was pretty good. Like, he showed some flashes of being a good offensive player, but from what we hear, this kid, Albert O, he may be what they wanted Tyree Jackson to develop into in terms of talent. So I don't know exactly what to expect with him, but I mean, they only kept 4 wide receivers on their active roster and 4 tight ends. So they may look at him as a guy that they want to use early, maybe like in the red zone and in situations like that. I thought it was interesting that they only kept 4 wide receivers active though, and then 4 tight ends.
Yeah.
Argo
Surely
Trek
a signing
says
coming.
Argo Trek wants $5 to give him fantasy advice. Kelsey, Andrews are banged up. Kittle's getting passes from Purdy. Is Goddard the number 1 fantasy tight end week 1? Sure. I mean, yeah, I guess. Although, there's always some random tight ends that play well. Tight end's a hard one to draft. Do you play fantasy football 500? You in a couple
I do.
leagues? Okay.
Yeah.
Who was your first
I'm in 3
pick
leagues.
this year? Who was your first pick?
My first pick was Jamar Chase.
Okay, that's pretty
I
good
got
one.
Jamar Chase. Yeah.
I like it.
So
Which Eagles do you have? That's the question. Because we all drafted Eagle players. Who'd you get?
Well, in the second round, A.J. Brown fell to me. So I got Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown.
Okay.
And my plan initially was to go – I wanted to go Jamar Chase and Burrow. But Jalen Hurts was sitting there. So I said, I'm going Jalen Hurts. So I got Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown, and Jalen Hurts. Those are my weapons.
Okay. It's pretty good.
I got
playing
Kenny G I got Kenny G with my last pick. With my last pick, I took him. I had in the last round. So, and I took DeAndre Swift before that. Playing with a bunch of content creators. There's Lord Brunson, Matt Shartworth. So a bunch of different content creators.
And they let the Eagle players slide, huh? How about that?
They let it.
Disappointing.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
That's a pretty salty team.
Slashing Santa through a $5 super chat, but he didn't say anything. So if you say anything, oh wait, here it is. He did not. So Josh, 10 total, but he said 3 icons. Much respect for all you countrywide Eagles tailgate mafia checking in. God bless. Thanks for all you guys do. You're welcome. Appreciate that. Appreciate the 10 entries in there as
Appreciate
well.
it.
There was another one that I saw here. Oh, Philly Freak says, this is a good one for Josh. 5 here. Eagles pull off Philly Special 2.0 on Sunday. Belichick would lose his mind. Go Birds. I didn't even think about that. They should, shouldn't they?
Yes.
They should at least try it, right? Come on.
I mean,
if you want to take over Twitter.
It would be pretty awesome. I think we'd all love to see it. It'd be just kind of rubbing salt in the wound. Like, hey, you remember this? It's been a while, but here you go.
Why not? I think we're going to be winning by enough. We can get away with it.
There you go. I like that. Jonathan Cook with 2. He says, I really want to see the run defense improve. Where are you at on Jordan Davis? I'm curious on that because Jordan Davis, he's in a weird position because he's a first-round draft pick, and people forget that he played well early on. Then he was banged up. He kind of disappeared towards the end of the year. Now we draft Jalen Carter, so you kind of forget about the previous first-round draft pick, and yet he's the starter. He's your biggest and best run stopper. I think we're going to be fine with Jordan Davis. I just think the expectations are he's going to be this double-digit sack, great defensive tackle. He's the next Fletcher Cox. And the reality is he's going to be a great run stopper. He's going to clog the middle, hopefully establish more of a pass rush move this year. But Jalen Carter is your pass rushing D tackle.
Right. Dan Cilio called me the Jordan Davis PR guy.
Oh, did he?
Because I'm very high on Jordan Davis. I think Jordan Davis is going to be really good. Listen, he's big, he's huge, he takes up a lot of space. You need 2 guys to block him. Now, you're right. The expectations is people think he's a double-digit sack guy. He's not going to be that guy. Right. He's a space eater. He's a run stopper. I think he gives you 5.5 sacks max a year. But what he's going to do is he's going to open it up for Jalen Carter to get blocked one-on-one. How are you going to block both these guys? And we saw what he did in the run game. Jordan Davis, to me, with all his physical ability, you can't tell me that if he's in shape, that he doesn't have the ability to play 3 downs. I don't believe that. You saw what he is athletically. He's just got to be in good shape. He's got to be conditioned. That was his biggest problem last year. He was not in good enough shape. So if he's in good enough shape, I think you're going to get a very good player. And I'll tell you this, I think he's the key to this defense being not just good but elite. Because everybody's looking at Jalen Carter and Haason Reddick and all these other guys. But if he is what we drafted him to be as a first rounder, and you get to add that to all these other guys, I think this defense goes to another level. I really do.
I agree. I think we do. I can't wait to see it. I know that all of us, as far as call him the Breadman, call him Baby Rhino, whatever you want to call Jalen Carter, but after, I mean, what, the first play, I mean, come on. We knew that he was going to be good, but in the preseason, the first play that he gets out there, it's like, oh my gosh, and let's just shut him down. We're good. We don't need to see anything else. Obviously, he came out and played the next game too, just a couple plays. But I mean, it's one thing when you see that on tape, because there's other rookies. You can go and look at NFL highlights of other rookies. Will Anderson had a good play. There's other guys out there making noise. But when you talk about vets, guys that know the team and also know the ramifications of making statements to the media, like a Lane Johnson, like a Fletcher Cox, like a Brandon Graham, Jason Kelsey, I mean, these guys are not holding back. So that tells me, like, Jalen Carter especially is far and above everything else that they were expecting, because they're not just going to be like, hey, let's keep it in-house. Like, we think he's pretty good, but let's not put any extra expectations on him. They're saying, screw that. Like, this guy's incredible. It doesn't matter what we're going to go ahead because we know you're going to have trouble stopping it. And like Kelsey's mentioned, I mean, the Eagles O-line, they have struggled. The guards and the centers are talking with each other like, hey, he does this. How do we combat it? And I can't wait to see it. So the fact that we only got an extremely small sample size, but we're going to get to see on Sunday, I mean, I don't know how many plays, 40 plays, maybe it'll still be rotational, but still for him to get out there, I cannot wait. It wouldn't surprise me. I think we've all talked about it. I've seen several videos, but like, if he were to set the record as far as Eagles rookies, it wouldn't be too shocking, which would be crazy to say that before. But I mean, what we've seen and all the hype, and then he's lived up to it. It's phenomenal. I love it.
I think he gets the first sack for the Eagles this year. I think he registers the first sack. Yeah.
All right. That may be for those in states that you can place bets. I'm just saying, there you go. There's your Philly 500 special.
He had an offensive one and a defensive one. He's got him covered.
There you go.
First touchdown score and first sack for the Eagles.
I've already played this game out in my mind so many times. I've already played this whole thing out.
Jacob with 5 here. He goes, can I hear your thoughts on special team concerns given the recent injuries and lack of a punter? You could rewind the show. We did a whole thing on this. But, well, I mean, I'm just saying. 500 made a good point, though, earlier, and you can make it again. You are very concerned. I think Siposs will be fine early. Yeah. I think eventually they need to figure things out. But I think we also forget that there aren't like 60 great punters in the league, right? There's only a couple. It's almost like quarterbacks. There are elite punters, same goes for kickers, and a bunch of nobodies. It's not like there's a bunch of kickers walking around on the street who kick it 50 yards and pin it into 10 every single time. And I think that they're kind of looking around and going, hey, this is the best we got.
There's got to be somebody in Australia or in England.
You would
Somebody's playing soccer or rugby that we can sign. It's got to be somebody.
Ask Jordan Mailata if he knows anybody from his rugby team.
Maybe we let him punt.
Yeah.
Might as well.
You could. Jake Elliott's done it before in a game. He was fine. I mean, come on. It's not like it's that hard. Anybody's better than Brett Kern. Brett Kern might have been some of the worst punting I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to call it that. Yeah. I don't know. It's a fair point. We talked about it earlier, like you said, but at the same time, I mean, just from the eye test, again, these guys that the Eagles have worked out, a Braden Mann, Brett Gillikin, Pat O'Donnell.
Yeah.
I mean, out of one of them, surely I would think it's got to be a better option. But so far, as of right now, the Eagles don't think so, I guess. Yeah. And maybe you don't want to mess with the kicking game, right? Because there's something to it as far as holding, and Jake Elliott may be comfortable with something there. But I fail to believe that is the only or main reason to say, we don't want to get someone else for a punter because someone can't hold the snap.
You know what's weird is, why can't a field goal kicker punt?
It's a great question.
Like, why these guys can get 58-yard field? How come there's not a guy? You know how valuable that would be if you got a kicker that could punt and do field goals, and you save a whole roster spot?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. If I had a kid and he wanted to be like a field goal kicker growing up, I would say learn to punt and kick field goals. You'll be the most valuable kicker in the National Football League. You don't take up 2 roster spots, you take up 1. I never understood why the punter can't kick field goals and field goal kickers can't punt. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm with you there. I agree. I saw somebody, I can't remember who it was. I saw someone make the comment on Twitter of
I saw it today.
Shohei
Yes.
Ohtani. I mean, that's
Yes.
the equivalent of it. And at first, it's like, that's two different king styles. But it's a great point. In this day and age, especially, you see all sorts of incredible feats. If you're able to do that, no pun intended, but incredible feats with as far as the punting and kicking, like if you can do it, you're saving a roster spot, and that's huge for teams. So they pay you a little extra. You'd be the highest paid punter, but to be able to do it, why not? I don't see why someone couldn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's see. A couple of questions here. People keep asking about Matt Araiza. We talked about that a little bit earlier. No one's bringing Matt Araiza in. There clearly is something that teams are unhappy with. I know.
Mm-hmm.
People are
There's
saying
a lot.
Yeah, they're saying destroying the YouTuber, but he probably makes more money on YouTube than he would as a punter for a team. He probably doesn't have to work out as much, so that guy's probably out. I don't know. It's rough. Remo says, "Put me in, coach. I'll just envision the ball as Jonathan Gannon and blast it 80 yards. That could work. It's not a bad idea. Not a bad idea."
Well, whatever works. Why not?
I want to ask about Jalen Hurts before we wrap things up. We've been going for over an hour here really quickly. We haven't talked about Jalen Hurts at all. We all three think he's going to be good. We all think he's going to be great. We all love him, blah, blah, blah. I want to ask you, though, 500, honest thoughts on Jalen Hurts. Better this year than he was last year, and is it noticeably better? That's my question, because if he's as good as he was last year, obviously fantastic MVP candidate, but is there another level that you see him kind of jumping up this season to where we visually go, whoa, this is even better than it was in 2022?
Yeah, I do. I think we're going to see a better Jalen Hurts, and I think it's going to be noticeable. And I think it's going to be mainly in the passing game. I think when he's had 2 full years as a starter. At some point, things start to slow down for you. You kind of know what defenses are doing. You kind of can read it. I think that you're going to see a decline in maybe rushing yards, but I think you're going to see an increase in passing touchdowns, passing yards, because I think he's getting more comfortable with that. And listen, you've got to protect your quarterback at the end of the day. He's been hurt 2 years in a row, maybe because the last one for Chicago, I didn't even think it was necessary. So at some point you have to I think personally, you have to kind of lay off the running. I'm not saying don't do it. Still do it. It's still got to be part of his game. But I still think you're going to see the passing numbers come up for Jalen Hurts. That's what I'm expecting this year.
I don't see why not. We talked about it a little bit before too, and the fact that, like we mentioned, you have Swift, who's going to add to it. I mean, that's the extra dynamic, the extra dimension. You've got these other running backs. You can hand off the ball a little bit more, hopefully a little bit less rushing. I know that Sirianni made the comment of, hey, nothing's going to change. And I don't think that Jalen, from his mentality, is going to go, oh, I made all this money. Like, don't put me in those ends. He's going to be all about winning. But I do agree. I think that with you having these weapons and these playmakers, it's going to be a little bit different, but he's honed in. I mean, he's focused. The dedication that dude has is I don't know. You can't match it to someone else or compare it to someone else, really. And yes, you could say, no doubt, to me, Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league. I don't have a problem saying that. But in terms of just the dedication and his focus, it's on another level. It's insane. So it wouldn't surprise me either if he takes that next step. Now, again, to say that is kind of crazy because he was really, really good from the pocket, and some people like to just throw it. I think they think or pull it out of their hat as far as, oh, well, he's kind of a running quarterback, so he must not be able to throw from the pocket. Take a look at the numbers. Like, he actually can, but you add an extra dynamic, and also to dump off to the running back. There's a reason. I understand. There's a reason you took him in fantasy. There's a reason that a lot of people are taking him in fantasy, but I think he's going to have a great year. Just hopefully, fingers crossed, he stays healthy, because that definitely is key. I don't know if we want to get there, but I don't think we want QB2 coming in. Let's just say that.
No. Oh God, no. I think he throws over 30 touchdowns, and I think he gets around 4,000 yards this year. I mean, those would both be improvements. So I think he's going to have an MVP type year. Is what I'm expecting.
There you go. All right, let's wrap it up here quickly, and let's score predictions. Josh, what's your score prediction for Sunday?
I'm going to go actually a little lower scoring. That may be surprising, but it's only to do really with the line. So, that tells you I might maybe not having money on the game, but I'm going to say Eagles 2017. But it's going to be not quite that close. I think it'll be maybe 2010 and then a little backdoor cover action for the Patriots.
Okay. 500?
I'm going to say 31-17 Eagles. I think it'll be close first quarter, maybe late second, and I think the Eagles pull away in the second half.
Okay, I'm 27-17. I think Zeke gets a rushing touchdown. I think that Judon is a little bit of a game wrecker. He's kind of annoying, but in the end, like
Yeah.
we talked about from the start of this show, this is a game where we shouldn't blink. Like, this should not be any sort of drama. It should be smooth sailing. You should put the Patriots to 0-1. You should make Brady walk out of the stadium upset that it was a special day and they still lost to Philadelphia, and you move on and you get ready for Thursday Night Football. So we'll see. But all 1-0. Good to hear. Listen, 500, we appreciate you giving us your time here.
Oh,
Still
yeah.
the
Heck
king
yeah.
of YouTube. We appreciate you coming on and jumping on with
Thank
us.
you, man.
And we'll have you on again. Best of luck, and let's hope all the
Absolutely.
fantasy teams work
And-
out well. Go
And
ahead,
next
Josh.
time,
Yeah.
then next time we'll get Joey too, so we'll
There you
let him
go.
hear it. But
Yeah.
it was
There
family
you go.
stuff, so we understand.
No, I appreciate it. I mean, anytime you guys want me on, I love what you guys are doing on your channels. So thank you so much for having me on, man. I do appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, couple of days
Heck
away
yeah.
from the start. We're all looking forward to it. All right, we appreciate you guys watching. Have a good rest of your night. See ya.
We'll see you.